Okay, welcome to this first introductory video where I'm going to walk you through how to edit photos through Lightroom. So I'm a Boudoir photographer in San Diego, and I'm going to walk you through my process. I find Adobe Lightroom CC to be probably the easiest to get started with. It's got a lot of good tools, and it's not as hard to get to know the software as, let's say, Lightroom Classic. But let's just get straight into it because this is what you're here for. You want to learn how to edit these photos. So this is what it looks like after it's been edited, right? And this is what it looks like, the raw. So we're going to go, how did we get from here to here? And there's not a lot of changes. There's some subtle changes. You can probably see there's some smoothing, there's some highlights. There's a few things that were done to this image to make it look a little bit more polished. So when I first open an image, first of all, I'm going to reset these edits. It's going to look a little bit, it's going to have my lighting that I don't want in there. It's going to have, this is a little C stand that's a little bit visible, right? It's in the shot, which is fine. You can't avoid it. So you can see that some of these areas are a little underexposed, which is fine. The main focus for me when I was shooting this, for her to be properly exposed. So again, we're going to the profiles. That's one of the first things. This is the little edit tab. And if you can see, if you put your mouse over it, there will be the letter E that highlights right on top of it. So what you want to do is learn those little shortcuts. You see, this is the crop, rotate, geometry one. This is the letter C. So if I hit C, this changes to this, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually crop out this light. So I'm going to bring it in by just clicking and holding onto these tabs right here. Bring it in. There we go. And maybe pull it back down. And you see that it has a grid, right? It has these rule of thirds, these vertical and horizontal lines. And so typical photography is you want the main subject, what's calling out your attention, to be on these points, these 4 points, right? It helps you with composition. You can always change where it says crop overlay, you can change it to fifths, diagonal, center, triangle, golden ratio, golden spiral, and different aspect ratios. So whatever you kind of prefer, but I like to just stick to thirds. And so I'm going to bring it in, and you see how her shoe right here is getting cropped out. Maybe we don't want to do that, right? So maybe we want her laying on this line. So I'm going to do this. Okay. So now we have her. To me, she looks a little bit like she's a little lopsided. So I'm going to hit C again. And this time I'm going to put the mouse right on that bottom corner. And I'm going to tap and drag. And I'm going to drag it to the side a little bit. It looks like it's lopsided. I wasn't perfectly, I didn't shoot it perfectly up and down. You see how this is hanging right here now. I think now it's properly leveled out. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I'm gonna change the lighting. I'm gonna increase the exposure to maybe potentially so we can see what's actually captured. So if I crank it up, right? I'm shooting raw. Hopefully you guys are shooting raw because it allows you to, get all that detail behind there, right? We don't really need to see this. This is not actually, this is not what I want. But what I want to do is I want to see the areas that I need to remove, change out. Okay, so there's something here that's kind of in the way. I might want to crop out or remove with generative AI. But I'm going to reset it back to the exposure. And what I want to do is bring up the shadows because I'm losing a little bit of the shadows. I'll bring the shadows up a smidge, maybe 57. That's good. And let's look at it. Okay. So she's in focus. Everything's good. I want to maybe bring up the highlights a little bit, maybe as well. Make it pop. Okay. So her skin's a little bit brighter now. You can tell it's definitely brighter. Legs, arm right here. The next thing I want to do is go to the curves. And the curves, I really like them because it allows me to kind of have a little bit more control over some of these areas than previously, than just using this panel. So I always like going a little darker. So I'm going to bring it up just a smidge, about 3.5. And you see like this moved. If you look at this is what's called the histogram. And then you see there's a little gap. I just brought that up. And if I bring it back down, you see how it moves back to the left. I'm bringing it in up a little bit, just a smidge, just a tad off of that. So it doesn't go all the way completely to the black. So this curves panel, you see these vertical lines. This first line, this is going to be your shadows, which we already kind of adjusted right here, right? This is kind of like your midtones, and this is your highlights. So what you want to do, let's say I want to bring the shadows down. I'm going to be putting a dot here and then slowly bringing it down. And you see this curve that it creates? This curve, when you add a dot and it perfectly curves, it actually is moving all these settings. Obviously not here visually, but it's moving those things. It's bringing the exposure down, not just in the shadows, but in the midtones and also the highlights. Here's a little eye icon. If you tap on it, if you hold it, you see it gets removed, and you release it, it comes back, right? So people really like contrast. Contrast in an image is probably the best thing you could do. When there's low contrast, it's dull. So I just lowered the contrast on this setting right here. So there's not a huge separation between the lights and the darks, right? And so you can see it gets dull, right? Our eyes are drawn to contrast. So if I reset it by tapping it, you see all the color comes back, the shadows, the highlights. It all starts to pop again. Okay. So we got our exposure, and I got my curves. I'm going to keep it simple, right? And then our color. So color has to do, this first panel is basically how did you shoot it. So if you shot it with your camera at daylight, so I set it at 5700 Kelvin. On the back of your camera, there'll be like a white balancing thing. A lot of people like to use auto white balance. But what I would suggest is you get comfortable setting the temperature. Because I like to use colors. For example, these color bars, this red. If I set it to auto white balance, what it would do is it would try to balance this. It would say, oh, there's too much red in this image. I gotta balance it out to green, right? Because it would try to make that color bright, like white, right? So you get some weird, funky results when you don't set your color temperature correct. So I set it to 5700 Kelvin because the lights that aren't in the image here, but that are lighting the model, are exactly 5700 Kelvin. So white balance is correct. So that's what I'm just gonna leave it at that. Sometimes though, skin tones, and for the type of photography that I do, skin tones are super important. Sometimes you get richer skin tones by increasing the temperature to warmer. So as you go up in the number here, let's go to 6000 Kelvin, 6100. It gets warmer. If you go down, it gets colder. And you see how there's now the skin tone looks kind of weird, right? So skin tones, let's say all the way blue, 2000 Kelvin, that looks weird, right? And I don't personally like that, but maybe your project calls for that. Maybe that's what you're going for. But for this situation, I'm just going to reset it. And again, a nice, healthy skin tones. I'm going to actually bring it up to about 6,500. And again, you can always tap on that little eyeball. And you see, it just brings in a little bit more saturation in the skin tones. It makes it look a little bit more pleasing for me. for my eye, right? So we can see there's a little, maybe a little bit too much green. I'm going to go a little bit on the magenta. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to mess with vibrance and saturation. So vibrance has to do with the amount of color that is located. If we look at this histogram up here, vibrance affects the middle area right here. Or if we're looking at the curves, it's affecting this area, the center area. It doesn't affect the shadows and it doesn't affect the highlights. Saturation affects the whole thing. So if I crank the saturation, you see how obviously it's too much, right? Now it looks like a baked potato or something like a chicken nugget. So I'm going to bring it back. Okay, your eyes are going to adjust a little bit. But let's increase the vibrance just a smidge. Let's do 33. And you'll see there's a lot more color now. The reds are getting a little bit more color. And you see there's a little bit more life to it. I don't like to add way too much, but sometimes you need to bring it back. Okay. All right, let's go to now the color mixer. So the color mixer will be able to, you can kind of more or less edit the colors that are in the image. And you can kind of isolate them. So let's say we want to just mess with the couch, the reds on the couch. So here's a little the target adjustment color mixer right here. If you tap on it, this bar right here pops up. And you can say, hey, I want to select the hue, the saturation, or the luminance. So right now we're going to to keep it simple, we're just going to keep it on the hue. And we're going to do, we're going to select the couch. And if I hold it down, it gives us a few options, right? So you see how it switched to the reds here, and we're in the hue, right? So if I tap and hold, I can add more magenta or I can add more yellow. You see how it starts changing it? And just FYI, reds, some of the skin tone falls on reds. So sometimes it's not great when you're just adjusting the reds because it's going to affect the hue a little bit. The skin tone one, which is this orange. So let's reset it. I'm just going to double tap on this, on the hue, to bring it back. Let's say I want just a richer red, right? So we can do saturation, and I can look here, and you see, and if I go to the left, it removes the red, and you see it actually removes a lot of the red from the skin tones too. Or you can bring it back and go the opposite way and make it super saturated. And you see how it just brought the skin tone color back, but it wasn't too overpowering because the skin tone still looks fine. So if I tap here, you can see that it increased the saturation a little bit. I can reset this and bring it back. There we go. Now, for whatever reason, it looked like the skin tone went to the green side here. So the orange can go to magenta or green, right? So those are the two opposites. You can change the hue between those. You can change the saturation or you can change the luminance. So let's go back to the red and let's just say, you know what? We wanted a darker red, so we can bring down the luminance, right? So it gives it a different vibe. Definitely removes the couch, but I like the couch. Let's keep it in there. I'm going to bring it back. You can also bring it up. Oh, wow. Check it out. Now it's a bright red, right? Luminance, meaning how much light it gives off, right? So let's make it brighter. Ooh, look at that. Actually, I like that. Let's keep it like that. Cool. So just keep in mind, it is also affecting this. You can always check. You can always check to see how your edit looks like compared to the original by tapping on this little icon that says "Show Original." If you hold your mouse over it, it should give you the shortcut. It is this backslash, right? So that's what it looked like before we got started. This is how it looks like now. Okay, so all we're doing is just bringing back some color and bringing back some details in the shadows. and I'm liking it. So, but let's say she wants smooth skin tones, right? She wants the smooth skin, right? You can see a little imperfections. I don't care, but some people do. So let's go ahead and use some masks. This will get you through a lot of edits. So let's go to the masking feature right here. Or you can type M, right? So the first thing it'll do is it'll detect. Okay, it didn't detect people for whatever reason. So we're going to do subject. Okay. And it thinks the whole thing is the subject. So I don't like it. It created this mask that has basically the couch and her and the leg. So I don't want that. I'm just going to click on these three dots and say delete all masks. I don't want that. For whatever reason, it didn't select the person. And that's unfortunate because that makes things easier. So we're going to have to do it manually. I'm going to hit the B or the brush, right? But the first thing I'm going to do here is this is my brush size. You see it's barely the width, and I can always increase the size. Feather means how soft the edges are going to be, how thick the flow is going to be, and the density. So I want it to affect the whole thing. So I'm going to smooth out, let's say, the skin tones manually, right? I'm going to make sure that this auto mask is set on, because what's going to happen is if I select the leg right here, and if I get close to the edge, it's going to primarily focus on selecting the leg and not selecting other parts that I don't want to. So I'm going to bring it down in size a little bit, and I'm going to just make sure that it's all highlighted. Okay. So now I'm going to go over on this side, and I'm going to select the arm, and basically anything that has skin tones, right? or is skin. So I'm going to select it, boom, boom, boom. And again, this process is a lot easier if it had auto detected it, which for whatever reason it didn't. But AI can only save you so much. Okay, so I'm going to do the face with this one. And when you're selecting or smoothing out skin on the face, try to keep the lips and the eyes isolated. So whatever's being colored in this red, that's what's going to be affected, right? So I'm going to go a little bit up here. I'm going to leave the hair and the eyelashes intact without anything. Okay, so we got our skin tones. Next thing we want to do is we want to go to, so we got our mask, right? So it's not red. It didn't actually turn the skin tones red, right? All it is, it's showing you where you highlighted it. So we're going to go here to presets. And I'm going to go to where it says smooth skin. Boom. You see how fast that did it? You see how much texture is in there, and now it's smooth. Okay. So that's as much smoothing as I like to do. You can always go even further where it says amount right here. You see it says at 100 right now. That's the default setting. Let's say it went too smooth and you wanted to dial it back. You can always bring it back down, or you can remove it, right? You can see all that texture. And as soon as you increase it, boom, it's back. And then you can always go forward too. But you just want to be careful if you are over smoothing, unless that's the look you want to go for. So I'm going to go back to the editing. I'm going to get out of the masking area and go back to the edit. Okay. So let's say the next step I want to do is I want to bring in a little bit, make it pop a little bit more. Those highlights make it a little bit more contrast. So I could bring it into Photoshop, or I can do it in here. For the most part, it's easier for me to do it in Photoshop, but if you want to just stay with one program, I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go back to masking. I'm going to create a new mask, right? And so I'm going to go with brush. That's the default one. And what I want to select, I might actually maybe remove the density. No, I'm gonna keep it as high. So I want to highlight, where the light is actually falling. So I want to do a little bit right here, maybe a little bit on the arm, definitely on the leg here. Oh, oops, it went a little too crazy. So I'm gonna undo that. I'll paint this. Maybe paint. Oops. You see my brush is too big, so I'm gonna bring it back down to about 5, and I'm gonna just paint the top here, right? So whatever you're actually painting right now, that's where we're gonna increase the highlights. So let's increase a little bit of the highlights here. And if we go here now, when you're masking, now you have all these controls that just affect that area that you just painted in. So I'm gonna increase the highlights. Not too much, maybe a +10. And again, let's go ahead and disable the mask and enable. You see, we're creating contrast, right? So if I disable that and bring it back, disable that, bring it back, you see now it pops. Okay, now I think we're good. And now we can actually export it and share it on wherever. So if you guys like this type of content, go ahead and hit a like and follow. I'm going to go ahead and start actually showing you guys how I shoot and edit photography. If you want to follow me on Patreon, I actually show a lot more stuff that I can't be showing here. I have these 5-minute edit sessions that I'm going to start doing. And some of these photos will get me banned on YouTube. Hit a like and follow for more. Thank you.